Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, I have another amazing guest. This is somebody that I met at a lot of conferences and a lot of webinars, and she's always a person who stands out and has a lot of value to add. She has a very unique skill set of stuff ranging from entrepreneurship to websites to restaurants to mathematics, design, business. She is just so full of knowledge and wisdom. She looks at entrepreneurship as a design challenge where pieces come into play and communicate with each other for that intended message. She loves helping other people and she likes impacting as many people as she can. And she really focuses on the why, not the how. So please welcome a pure truth seeker and attractiveness coach, Ms. KATHERINA Cortez.
Thank you so much, Fong. You're amazing. You're really amazing. It's such an honor to be here at the Peak Potential. I know you bring a lot of value in your platform. So I feel so honored to be here.
Well, thank you very much for being here and spending some time with us.
Absolutely, yeah.
So just so that people know what you do and how you got to where you are, give us that kind of storyline from where you started to where you are today.
Awesome. So I started out, I was born in the Philippines and I grew up there until I was 13, but I was an extremely shy person. So I didn't really speak for the first 8 years of my life. And so I needed to be invisible at the time. And it was more of a dynamic of the family. But to grow out of that invisibleness and also that shyness, I really had to work hard to get myself out. And in that process, I found ways to get to know people because being an introvert can be very subjective and for me dangerous, although it has a lot of benefits. And so entrepreneurship was for me a way to get out of my shell, to learn about people because you really need to learn about the other person. But also eventually, I'll go through it in a bit, but the coaching right now, I think, is the peak for me where I want to be, where I put it all in. And I started entrepreneurship as a restaurant. But from there, it's just like it's grown. I got addicted to it. And so here I am. So basically, getting myself out of the shell and also helping people walk that same path of getting them out of their shell and also being visible. Make sense?
Well, of course it does. When it comes to entrepreneurship, it's not an easy thing. Lots of people want to jump into entrepreneurship and there's a lot of things that they don't expect. Now, it can be very, very hectic. How do you keep that peacefulness? How do you keep that calm when you're facing challenges, when you're facing anxiety, when you're facing all these different people and whatnot? Entrepreneurship gives you a lot of that kind of stuff. So how do you find that calm?
Well, thank you. So I get that feedback a lot from other people, especially when I do Zooms with them, that I'm very calm. And that really goes back to when I was young and being an introvert, an extreme introvert. So I spent a lot of time sitting on the tree in front of our house. And so that was before I didn't even know the word meditate. I had no clue what meditate was, but I think that's what I was essentially doing, was meditating in the tree and observing people. And I always found that time to be really special for myself. So to be calm means really being focused inward and also just observing, but also knowing that my relationship to the outside world always stems from my relationship with myself. So that's how I stay calm. If I focus on this, if I fix on this, then I'm okay with the rest of it.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Calmness is very, very important because if you're not calm, then you're just all over the place. It's hard to really focus on the task at hand if you can't just put yourself into that space. And meditation is one of those things that I know a lot of people do. And when you can really maximize that ability, it really gives you that focal point. So that's great advice right there. Everybody needs to go find that tree.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Nice. You went from mathematics to like website designs, to restaurant, to entrepreneurship, to attractiveness coach, to all this stuff. So obviously you have found a way to kind of ward off the BS. We ward off all that negativity, the people who tells you you can't do it, and all kind of stuff, and the excuses that you may or may not have come up with. So what do you tell people when they come up with, well, I can't do that. I'm not in position to do that, or I just not skillful enough to do this, where they have a lot of different excuses or justifications. What do you say to them?
All I say from my point of view and what I've done with that is I'm always seeking the truth. So in mathematics, if I go back when I think about it, the reason why I get into it, first of all, I was good at math in high school. But the second thing was I wanted to find the truth, like the DNA of life in another language. And for me, that was mathematics. It's almost like if you could look at a microscope and look at life. And for me, that really made sense that, maybe I could find the truth in life through mathematics. And so in that process, I'm always looking for the truth. And so when I've gotten into different disciplines, it was always a personal thing, like, how do I find this truth? And so I went into design, I went into mathematics, I went into web design, and also the restaurant business, because I love to cook, but I also love hosting people. And at the time too, I was like trying to find, when I was still employed, I was trying to find the perfect employer, someone who had a vision, someone who treated the employees really well, someone who could, inspire others. And I thought to myself, like, what if that person was actually me? And so I tried restaurant from web design, which has no rationale, right? So if someone's trying to figure out where to go in life, what is it that you might be good at? And so I'm trying to filter out all the noise of other people, what people may say, what people may think about what I'm doing. But for me, just trying to find the truth. And the best thing about me was, like, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be the best employer. And so I strive to be the best employer when I had that restaurant. So basically, to answer your question, is filtering out all the noise and going back in again and saying, what could I be good at? What could I be passionate about? What could I deliver for other people? And then the rest of it is just noise.
I remember one of our conversations before where you talked about how your dog doesn't really care about the BS.
Yes. So I grew up with dogs all my life, right? And so dogs are all about energy. They're not about you talking to them. So for me to lead very powerful dogs, like I had one that was part wolf, you have to lead from the front. And so they read your energy. And so when you're frazzled and you're not present, they can read that. And so you can't really control them or lead them from the front. So for me, that was really important. Otherwise, these are really powerful animals, right? And we're part of a society. And so you have to learn how to guide them in a society. I'm not in a farm, right? I'm part of a big society where I have to interact with people. And, most of the time I lead them without a leash. Mm-hmm. So I lead them by action and energy and just confidence from inside. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's really important for me growing up, learning that tool.
Have you found that having a dog by your side and learning how to lead them and guide them made you a better, let's say, an entrepreneur, a better employer or employee?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they are a mirror of how you are presently. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not present and my mind is all over the place, I can see them being all over the place. And so when I'm trying to be present with people and I'm all over the place, then I feel like the people around me can affect them also by being, frazzled as well. So basically centering yourself first.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had any meaningful conversations with your dog just to run that conversation through to somebody before you actually have that conversation with somebody else?
Yes. So the dog that was part wolf, he was really good at eye contact with me. And he wasn't really good with other dogs, but he was really good with eye contact with me. And so I would run conversations with him. And there were times where, I was depressed. I went through some emotional stuff, and him and I were always just together, and we would run conversations, together. So yeah, it's very true. Yeah. So that feedback from him was really important.
You also talked about how mathematics allows you to find the truth. There's not a lot of people that find that kind of passion in mathematics. So how do you relate mathematics and your passion to mathematics to your success in entrepreneurship?
It's the curiosity. It's the constant curiosity. It's wanting to solve something constantly, right? So in entrepreneurship, we're always trying to get things right. There's a difference between being right or wanting to be right, but wanting to get it right constantly. So in mathematics, there's proof. So proof of equation, right? And so I put that into my business where I just want to figure things out and creatively put things together. It's like, is this formula going to work for my business right now? Is this formula going to work for my life right now? So I'm so excited about that every morning. That's what gets me up in the morning, is finding that formula that actually works today.
Wow. That's obviously something you worked out very well, because not a lot of people who have a very strong analytical mindset in mathematics and number crunching and all that kind of stuff, and are still able to express themselves creatively and design and business and entrepreneurship. Sometimes that's very hard to mix together. So you found a very unique way of kind of blending it all together and making it work. Something else you found a way around is overcoming your shyness. Because at the very beginning, you talked about you didn't want to talk for 8 years. So how did you go from an introvert to somebody who is doing all this other stuff? You're on videos, you're coaching people, you're networking, you're talking a lot, you're speaking. How do you go from one to the other?
It was years of practice, really. And there was a moment where I realized as an introvert that there was a danger in it. Meaning, it was so subjective in my head. I wasn't happy. I was judging people, and I never really got to talk to them. I'd look at someone and say, there was something I didn't like about that person. And yet, when I go back as a kid, I was such a nice kid. I just really liked people. And so somewhere in between, I said, there's a disconnect there, because naturally I like people, but there was a disconnect where I was starting to judge people and I was unhappy. And so I was like, okay, let me figure this out. So I said, if I was in a party, I turned to going to the kitchen and just hanging out in the kitchen. I said, no, you can't do that. You have to talk to people. So I would pick out the person that I felt like I didn't like. I didn't have good vibes, and I would talk to them. And I would give them 10 minutes of my time. I would talk to them. So basically, I didn't try to interrupt them. I really tried to get to know them. I would sort of like doing an interview with them, right? And what I found out was 99.9% of the time, I was wrong. There was actually something really deep about that person that I really, really liked. And that I had made up stories in my head that were not true. And so from then on, it was just practice, practice, practice. And it became a habit. And when I opened a restaurant, just welcoming people into the restaurant and making eye contact. That was the first thing I taught the employees, was when people come in, make eye contact and smile, right? And so we want to make them so that when they leave, they're smiling, a bigger smile, or at least smiling when they leave. So that was constant practice. But that was the impetus, with this 10-minute rule of giving someone a chance to getting to know them, basically.
For a lot of people out there who are shy, who are scared of networking, who are scared of connecting with people, what would you say to them? Like, what is that very first thing that you do? You say in your mind, you can give that person 10 minutes, right? Yeah. How do you approach that person? What's the first question you ask, or what topic do you bring up so that you can start that conversation?
Well, the thing about introverts is we're very observant, right? And we have most people have a lot of empathy. So the first thing you can say is, I really like your shirt, or I really like, hey, I met you before, but I never got a chance to talk to you, right? Like, and just start that conversation, but be genuine about it. And then people are usually receptive and just kind of keep a smile on, even though you're not seeing it from the other side yet, just keep it on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, opening the door for someone. Just because they didn't thank you for it doesn't mean you close the door on them. That kind of analogy. So just keep it open, right? Just keep it open and just stick to it until you feel better and better, and it becomes more natural. Yeah. So that's what I did.
How long would you say it took you to become more comfortable?
Not very long. Like, I would practice that in most parties, and I didn't go through a lot of parties, right? So I would work the room. Basically, I was like, I'm a constant student. So I said, yeah, okay, if I can make this work with this person, it's going to be easier with the other people, because it's like I pretty much picked the hardest person in the room already, right? So yeah, it just became more natural.
Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where you go to a networking event or a party and you're telling yourself, okay, I have a goal that I need to meet. I need to meet 5 people, 10 people. And then if you don't do that, you kind of tell yourself, oh, I did not meet my goal or something like that. So that it kind of forces you to talk to people. Well, that's a good mind hack, because I know a lot of people don't think that way. And that's a very analytical way of kind of making goals for yourself to go to a party. You went from mathematics to designing websites. How did you go from mathematics to the websites, and from websites to restaurants?
Okay, so from mathematics to design, what I see in both is passion, right? I had passion for both. And my father, he was doing sign painting when I was a kid. And I found that to be really engaging. And every time he would do it, I was just like completely mesmerized. And so at one point I was in college and I saw some typography on the wall, and I said, there's something about that I really like. So there's something about me where I say yes to a lot of things that feel good to me. So opportunities that feel right to me, I will say yes. I don't overthink it. So a lot of people overthink a lot of things. It's one of those things that I didn't do, and almost kind of naive about it. And so I got into communication design, which is really about having an audience and an intended message. So websites is just one part of it, but communication design is really delivering on that message. So I went from mathematics, it's always about curiosity and finding truth and now getting out of my shell, needing to communicate to another medium or person. That's how I got into design. Now, out of design, I was spending a lot of time on the computer, and I wasn't hoping that was going to be it. I thought it was more about being with clients. So I was like, oh, this is not good for my health, sitting down all the time. And I was like, well, what do I love doing? I love cooking, right? And so, like I said, I wanted to be the best employer that I couldn't find. So it went from also, for a while, I was trying to have my own design consulting business, and people took forever to decide whether they wanted a website. And at the time, it was all already about apps. And so at the restaurant, I was like, the restaurant's so simple. Are you hungry or not? Do you want to eat or not, right? Here's the food. Do you want to eat it? So I wanted to be more immediate, where I could deliver it more immediately. And so that made sense for me to have a restaurant. And it was a Middle Eastern restaurant, not a Filipino restaurant, because I knew that food made sense. Like people would eat it. They would grab it and go, and they would love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you jumped into becoming a restaurant owner and into entrepreneurship. What would you say is the most unexpected thing about entrepreneurship that you've encountered?
From the outside, it looks very glamorous, right? But when you're really into entrepreneurship, and especially a business like a restaurant, which is a very, very, very difficult business, it's kind of like dipping your first, you jump into a pool, and the next thing you know, a couple of years later, you're in the middle of the ocean and you're by yourself. Mm-hmm. This is what people don't see, is like you need to navigate somehow to this island that you heard about this island that it had all this glory. You're swimming and you're like, I'm in the middle of the ocean. I started out in the pool. there's no one behind me, right? I might stop over at an island here and there, but in my mind, there is a destination and it's this huge island that I imagined entrepreneurship was going to be.
Mhm.
But you need muscles, mental muscles, heart muscles, everything to get you to your destination. But then you find out in entrepreneurship is actually the journey.
Mhm.
You're seeing islands here and there. You're seeing the sunset. You're seeing, the sunrise, right? And then you find that calmness in yourself from doing what you do. But people think it's just you started and then you get to the island. But no, there's that abyss of like darkness that people don't realize.
So what would you say to people who wants to jump into either the restaurant business or jump into their own coaching business or entrepreneurship as to what are the things to mitigate around what you just talked about? And what are the first 2-3 steps?
I think if you have a desire in your gut that you want to do something, I said you can try it,
Mhm.
right? And don't ask everybody. You can ask certain people. Look for successful people. Don't ask people who worked 9 to 5 all their life because they have no clue.
Mhm.
So ask successful people, ask people who are currently in business. But if you have a desire to do it, you can try it, right? And it will help you grow as a person anyway. And then you can decide, in my analogy, am I going back to the swimming pool or am I going to keep, going?
Mhm.
And there is that point where, you're halfway. And you're going to find out, am I going to go back to the pool or am I going to keep swimming?
Mhm.
And that's your journey. No one else can tell you that. You can have people helping you along the way. You can have tools along the way. But in the end, you have to be responsible for you.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not your client. It's really you at the end. Look, what decision you have to make. And you have to own that decision.
Mhm.
Right? But it's an incredible journey because you thought you were going into a pool and in the middle of the open seas, you're navigating yourself. You become a different person.
Right. You grow stronger, you grow more knowledgeable, and you're able to navigate yourself a little bit more through that adversity and those challenges.
And maybe you've grown wings in your hands that made you so strong from, just these kind of muscles for entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. You become a different person.
Exactly. For yourself, when you're doing website designs for people, you encounter people who may be picky, who may be very micromanaging, who may be very frustrating to work with. The restaurant business is also very challenging when customers aren't happy with certain things. You can't please everybody sometimes. And sometimes they just find the most obscure thing to complain about. Yeah. And then now you're also an attractiveness coach. And I'm sure that you've met some people who are hard to work with and whatnot. So how do you it's almost like the first question about how do you stay calm, but how do you not just go, stop it? How do you deal with challenging clients?
I tell people that humor keeps me from punching people in the face. and it's not to be mean about it, right? It's just really, I see it like this can be entertainment as well. So I go back to, okay, how do I do this? I focus, right? Like leading from the front again. So there's some people, so you try to get the best out of them. But in my mind, as a Scorpio, I have this running joke in my mind as to this whole scenario as how this client is being difficult. So it's a self-entertainment for me. So at the same time, I still try to get the best out of the person. And if I can't do that, I let them go. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to let them go because my peace and my health and my sanity and my happiness is really, really important to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, without giving specific names or specific people or whatnot, are you able to give us an example of something that was very, very difficult that you made into a joke in your mind?
Yeah, in the restaurant business, I get people sometimes that are complaining or they leave bad reviews and things like that. And I don't really have, very extreme examples of people being rude to me. And here's another example I'll give you. So right now I'm doing also some fundraising because I have some time and I wanted to be connected to people face to face. So I'm doing door-to-door fundraising.
Wow.
Wow, right?
This is coming from an introvert.
Yeah, and this is a tough thing to do. So you get a lot of door slams. I got a lot of door slams in the beginning. And it was like, as soon as I got to be a better person, then the door started opening more. But it was really like, oh my God, I'm just so glad I don't have that person's life. So the running joke is like, I'm over here. They're saying they're all stressed out.
Mhm.
And I'm like fundraising for someone the people who lost everything in a fire, right? So the context of it is like, really, you can't see the difference that I'm here, 6.5 hours a day door knocking when I could be doing something else, and you can't even open the door about this much.
Mhm.
It's like that kind of joke, right? It puts everything into perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Was that something that was challenging for you to kind of develop?
I learned it in a couple of days how to door knock because I asked people to train me. And then I'm just a curious person. It's like, okay, how do I do this door better? How can I do this faster? How can I do? So I will do like 6.5 hours a day of nonstop knocking, nonstop. And I knew that I had sort of like the skill of not taking it personally.
Mhm.
A lot of people give up. And I don't give up just because I know I don't take it personally. I have a goal. I have people to help. When I'm doing 6.5 hours of this, I'm not doing coaching. I'm not doing this, right? I'm not being with my family. So the cost of doing this is high if I don't do a good job,
Mhm.
right? So that for me it's what drives me basically.
Awesome. So now you're an attractiveness coach. You work with a lot of people on their inner beauty, their confidence, their effectiveness and whatnot. What about that aspect of coaching really makes you go, you know what, this is what I really want to do. This is what I love.
So going back to the time when I was up on a tree, I would watch people and they didn't know I was up there. So when you watch people and they didn't know they were being watched, they were so beautiful. And so this is a gift that I had from way back when, where I would watch people and go, wow, she looks so good. So I could literally spend a few minutes with someone and find something really, really attractive about them that they may not see for themselves at the moment because life has happened and, they grew up a certain way. And so I knew that I had this in me and that I could bring it out of the person. So I was that person in your corner who would help you figure this out or see this for yourself. And I knew I could do that. And so this gives me a lot of joy because I could give back. And I think it's a skill not everyone has because everyone has like a filter. I don't seem to have that filter anymore because I'm just such a happy person.
Mhm.
So when I was not a happy person, I would judge people. But because I'm such a happy person, I can be happy for that person. So I didn't have that filter. And so I know that I can deliver that for people where I could be in their back corner and I could show them a vision of themselves that is much more positive than they currently see for themselves. Yeah. So that's my home right now. That's my sweet spot. And I feel like with some going to be amazing clients, this is going to be where I'm going to be for a while.
How would you say you got to that point where you can say, I'm a happy person?
I have good coaches, good mentors. I come from a good parents. So they were good people. So I have lots, they gave me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I have access to give up. But also I knew what it was to be depressed. I knew what it was to be invisible. I knew what it was to be not confident, right? So I worked myself out of that. And also at home with my husband and I, we used to run the restaurant together. So we would fight all the time. So we found a way to just coexist really happily by being responsible for each other's happiness, or our own happiness, I should say. And so bringing that at home where you don't talk about your problems. So when I close the door at home, people have no idea how happy we really are as a husband and wife. Mm. It's because we don't bring the problems. We really work on ourselves to make ourselves happy, and then bring that inside the home and just make it a sort of like happy home. And so that's the kind of thing that I want to show people, that it exists. Happiness exists. But first of all, it comes from yourself, mm-hmm. right? And so I'm hoping to take people on that mirror and say, this is possible, because I see it in you. So that kind of thing.
Nice. And I'm sure a lot of people need that kind of feedback to tell them and support them and go, hey, you know what? You can do this. It is possible. You just have to put in time. You have to think that way as well, right? Yeah. Talking about thinking, there's people out there who go, you know what? I'm too old. I'm already in my 40s. I'm already in my 50s. I'm too old to think about how attractive I am. I'm too old to start going into entrepreneurship. It's easy for you. You started a long time ago. So what do you say to that?
No. I started 7 years ago in entrepreneurship, and I was in my 40s, right? And, I was going to school later in life as well. The good thing about I've already hit the 50 mark is when you hit 50 is you can review your life and things make sense. Mm-hmm. So this happened because of that. This happened as just the way you've interviewed me today. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm hoping it'll help people that after a while starts to make sense. But, there were years in life, it's like, why am I going through this stuff? So after the 50 mark, you can go review and say, it makes sense because of this way. So now you have a certain kind of wisdom as you get older, right? But first you have to focus on your health, your energy, so that the noise of getting old is just in the background. And you focus on what is still possible because you have now earned all this wisdom, right? Yes. So you just need someone to show you that it is still possible. It's very much possible. And, it's in a special place in your life where you can still do things. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a few things that leads to my next question. And my next question is, how does one person harness that energy that you have on a daily basis? You kind of talked about meditation at the beginning. You talked about surrounding yourself with those people who can support you and push you and drive you. You also talked about becoming that happy place, right? Is there anything else that you do that allows you to harness that energy?
I focus on my health, meaning, I take care of my nutrition. So if people want to do 110%, but your health is like 30%, hey, that gap is not going to happen. I was sick for a very, very long time. And I remember not being able to be present. Like I was 50% present all the time. And you can tell when I watch people in the eyes, I can tell they're not fully present. And probably they're not feeling good. So you have to focus on your health, make sure you get the nutrition, being passionate about something that you want to do. Like I get up in the morning and I'm really excited to figure out life again, right? And it's just like creating a new tool today to be a better person. Surrounding yourself with better people. You have to let go of certain people in your life. And that's one of the things I wanted to do as a coach, is to be a professional that way. Sometimes you ask for advice from a friend, you don't know where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. You don't know what their subjective mind is wanting them to say to you. Like, it's not a professional environment, the kind of advice they're giving you, right? They only come from a place where their life is. So you need advice from people who can see a wide gamut, who have experienced a lot more, right? And have overcome a lot more. Then you're in a safer way to accept that kind of advice. Makes sense?
Yeah. You mentioned advice a lot and surrounding yourself around people. What is the best advice that you've ever gotten yourself?
I asked when I wanted to start a restaurant, I asked someone who was in the restaurant business before.
Mhm.
And this person, didn't deter me from having a restaurant, although he knew how hard it was. So he told me to go ahead. He went into a restaurant and just said, okay, I can see how this could work. Don't kill someone's dream, let them try it and figure out for themselves. I don't know where I would be today if I didn't try that, honestly.
Mhm.
Right? But like I said, be responsible for your own decision. But that person probably knew that the restaurant business is so hard, right? It's not for everybody. But he didn't deter me. He just encouraged me, helped me with little bits of information, didn't try to micromanage me. And I was very grateful for that person. Yeah. So that's the best advice is, okay, you want to try it? Even though, 3 years later, we had to go back to him and say, what do you think now? He says, you could stop it right now,
Mhm.
and we still went ahead. Like, it's hard. Don't kill people's dream. It's like, don't kill their heart.
Right.
If you find that they're still wanting to go, okay, let them go. It's their decision, right? Just help them out as much as they can, and hopefully they will listen.
Mhm. And that's very, very important, because there's a lot of people out there who's surrounded by people with loved ones, especially, who has the best intentions in mind, but they tell them, don't do this, don't do that, it's too risky, it's going to be too hard. And it just stops right there. And what you've gotten was somebody who cares and wanted you to succeed, but also was there to support your thoughts and your dreams. So that's very, very important. And people just need to start thinking that way so that dreams aren't crushed, right? For yourself, if I gave you the world stage and you get 2-3 minutes to say one message that you want everybody else to remember you by, what would that one message be?
I would say, when was the last time someone looked at you and made you feel like the most attractive and remarkable person in the world?
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And that is still possible for everybody. The noise of life is everywhere. Mm-hmm. But when someone makes you feel like you are the most wonderful, remarkable person to just walk in the room, you need to feel that at least once in your life.
Awesome. Nice words to live by. Before I let you go, I got 5 quick questions for you.
Sure.
And just for fun and to know a little bit more about you. All right. You're a cook, you're a chef. If you were stranded on a desert island and you had one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence, what would that be?
Oysters.
Oh, wow. That's a new one. Okay. Hollywood calls and goes, you know what, Katherina, you have an amazing story. We want to do a biopic on you. Who would you cast to play you?
Oh, gosh. Maybe Connie Chung.
Awesome.
Or Ming Na Wen.
Awesome.
And so I know you interviewed her. I was just like amazed about that.
So Ming Na Wen shows up at your door and goes, you know what? I casted for this role, but I need to get to know you a little bit more. Can I come in? You go, of course, come on in. And she goes, but I'm a little hungry. So what do you prepare for her? What's that special dish that you go, you know what? This is something you have to try.
It's a combination of Filipino food, Vietnamese food, and Middle Eastern food. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So whatever that dish is, I'm going to put it together.
And what would that dish look like?
It would have vegetables. It would have meat. It would have spices. So it's basically a journey in a big plate.
Oh, wow.
So I'll mold it together. It's probably like kind of smoky, not barbecued, but yeah, it's going to be delicious. She won't forget about it.
Great. Do you have a hidden talent that not many people know?
Hidden talent. I can make people, I think, smile all the time.
Very well done. And my last question is, what is success like? Give me a number between 1 to 4.
3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success related to a headstand, like standing on your head?
It's about perspective. You think that you're seeing something, but it's actually the other way around. So when someone's in a headstand, it's different perspectives of the person in the headstand as this person seeing the headstand. So success is like people see it a certain way, but you're seeing it a different way.
Awesome. Very well done. Thank you very much. And that is how success is like a headstand. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, know more about what you do, and see how you can help them out, what's the best way to reach out?
You can find me at KATHERINA CORTES through Facebook, through LinkedIn. I also have a website called Attractivenesscoach.com.
Awesome. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with us?
I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity, Fong. You know, you just highlight people, important people, and I'm so grateful for you for doing this for me. I feel so honored, and I also, through this interview, I get to know you a little bit more, which is really, for me, is phenomenal.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your advice, your wisdom, your stories. It's been very, very advantageous for the listeners. And I had a lot of fun. So thank you very much.
All right.
All right. For everybody else, she is KATHERINA Cortez. My name is Fong Chua. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.